D, wait for it, lightful.
Check out the name tag. You're in my world now, Grandma.
According to the villains of the world, there are two big weaknesses in Superman's life: his love for Lois Lane and Kryptonite. While his love for Lois Lane often becomes one of his biggest strengths as well, it's rare for Kryptonite to do the same. Kryptonite is a radioactive element from Superman's home planet Krypton, and since it made its comic book debut in the 1940s, there have been plenty of changes to it. It began simply as a way to zap Superman's strength, but over time, variations of the element have also split his personality in two, killed plant life, lowered his inhibitions, and so much more. The Silver Age of the comics saw a Kryptonite boom as writers began introducing different kinds of Kryptonite, combining different kinds to make a new version every few issues. The movies, television shows, and animated projects have also created their own kinds of Kryptonite, some of which have filtered into the comic book pages as well. There are close to 24 varieties of the Kryptonian space rock, but I've narrowed it down. Kryptonite that creates outlandish consequences has only appeared once or just doesn't make any sense. Silver Kryptonite. Another case of fake Kryptonite on the page. The original Silver Kryptonite was nothing more than a prank, but in the years since its debut, it's evolved into a very special version of the space rock. Smallville utilized a silver version of the substance in a storyline that involved the emergence of Brainiac as a villain. In the story, the silver Kryptonite resembled black rock with ribbons of silver running through it. In addition to actually allowing Clark Kent to be harmed, he cut his finger on it. It also caused paranoia in him. The eventual comic book depiction was very different. When Silver Kryptonite returned to the comics, it was used as an allegory for recreational drug use. Exposure to it caused Superman to become a bit more mellow, crave different foods, and even hallucinate. White Kryptonite. Like a lot of the variations of Kryptonite that popped up in the comics over the years, White Kryptonite was originally a variety of the original green Kryptonite that frequently caused Superman so much trouble. The Kryptonite would change from green to white when passing through a specific space cloud, imbuing it with one particular set of abilities, killing plant life. It was first demonstrated to kill plant-based life forms in Action Comics in the 1960s, when a plant-based alien took over Perry White's body. Supergirl used the white Kryptonite to kill the plant invading his body, and Superman used it later in that comic as well. A particularly dead type of Kryptonite, it only has to be within 25 yards of its target to kill it, which would definitely make it Poison Ivy's least favorite if comic book writers decided to bring it back to the page. Black Kryptonite. If you ever wanted to see two Kryptonians in action at the same time, this is the Kryptonite for you. Black Kryptonite was first introduced in Season 4 of Smallville, when the rock was used to separate the Kal-El part of Clark Kent's personality from him, allowing Clark to physically battle himself. The same was done to separate the evil Doomsday from his dominant personality later in the show. Since then, it has also been used in the comics on Supergirl, separating her darker nature from that of her pure self, also leading to a battle. Some versions of the comics have since adapted the properties of the black Kryptonite to not physically split people in two, but to reverse their. It stands to reason that heroes might be able to easily deal with evil Kryptonians by simply giving them some black Kryptonite. Blue Kryptonite. Originally in the comic books, Blue Kryptonite was specifically made to combat Bizarro, Superman's evil duplicate. The effects of the Blue Kryptonite have changed a little bit in the years since, though. When it first appeared in 1960, Superman created it by placing a piece of green Kryptonite in the same duplication machine Lex Luthor used to create Bizarro. The effect meant that the Kryptonite that was duplicated would only react to Bizarro, but it would drain him just like green Kryptonite drained Superman. When Smallville brought Bizarro into live action, the blue Kryptonite did the opposite, enhancing Bizarro's powers and draining Superman's. The blue kryptonite also had the strange effect of powering up all other life forms, though that change hasn't filtered into the comics. Gold kryptonite. The word kryptonite has become synonymous with weakness thanks to Superman's comic books, but the gold kryptonite is one of the worst. It doesn't just weaken Kryptonians, it strips them of their powers completely. When it originally appeared in the comics, gold kryptonite was found in the far reaches of space, only discovered because Superboy, in an imaginary story, left Earth to help another planet after he was tricked into helping villains as a child. Since then, though it has been used to remove powers from Kryptonians several times, Superman has even used it on criminals and power-hungry people himself. The comics have also seen Lex Luthor develop a synthetic form of gold kryptonite since he's always looking for an edge over his nemesis. The substance also made its way into Smallville mythology, with Lex giving Clark Kent a permanent scar with a piece of gold kryptonite. Red kryptonite. Red kryptonite might just be the most common on the page and the screen next to the original green kryptonite. So why does it land on a crazy list? That's because it never seems to do the same thing twice. Red kryptonite doesn't just damage Superman's ability or weaken him, though it does that too, but it also makes him do something of the strangest things. Under its influence in the comics, Superman has lost his memory, gained additional limbs, become a dragon, lost his invulnerability, but only on one side, grown to a giant size, and more. In the television series Smallville, red kryptonite was used to make good guy Clark Kent be a bad boy for an episode or two, though the craziest thing he did was steal a motorcycle. In any medium, red kryptonite is one of the most unpredictable. Yellow kryptonite. Yellow kryptonite is one of the craziest kinds of the special rock for one reason. It's not even real. This version of kryptonite appeared in just one issue of the Action Comics in the 1960s. After Lex Luthor had discovered what Superman's weakness was, Lex had recently escaped incarceration by offering his genius intellect up for services while Superman was away from Earth. And when the hero returned to capture him, he used his yellow kryptonite to scare Superman away temporarily, of course. In a fun twist, it turned out Lex had used his fake kryptonite to give a scare to a fake Superman. The hero sent a robot in his place to do the job. Superman was still able to save the day in the end. Pink kryptonite. Pink kryptonite appeared in a single comic book, in a story that set out to sterilize much of the Silver Age of comics, but didn't go over well with fans. In the 4th volume of Supergirl's solo series, one story saw writers poke fun at the explosion of kryptonite during the Silver Age. They introduced their very own new kryptonite, pink. While the effects weren't explicitly stated, a panel featured Lois commenting how different Clark had been since he'd been exposed, while Clark complimented Jimmy's appearance and his smashing window treatment. The implication playing to the effeminate stereotypes was that the exposure to pink kryptonite temporarily changed Superman's sexuality. The idea of Superman turning gay was offensive, not because a homosexual hero was out of the question, but because it made sexuality appear as something that could be changed with the flick of a switch. Did I leave any one of your favorite kinds of kryptonite off the list? Let me know in the comment section down below.
If you like this video, click the Geek What icon and subscribe.